All right, this is the project we're going to be working on in this video today, and I just really wanted to say thank you for the comments of our previous video on our little candy cart. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm and push out our videos to other people who are looking at woodworking videos. So we just ask if you could just give us a comment, tell if you like it, if you don't like it. And one other thing, if you find a project that you like and you want it to be featured as a build here with the plants and so forth, just shoot us an email, which you can find in the listing description below, and we'll certainly consider it for a future project. So again, thank you for the comments. It does help us grow the channel, bring in more projects, and I hope you enjoy this one. Got a fun project for you here, and I think a profitable one too. We are going to be building a skull chair, and you can kind of use this framework for a lot of different types of chairs. Now the plans that we have for this chair do come with a couple of different skull configurations for the back. This could be adapted. You see a lot of marijuana leaf chairs and things, so this framework can be adapted to have lots of different backs to it. But it's a pretty easy project. It takes about a half a, well, I guess let's just say 1 2x6, and then it takes 3 2x4s, and then it takes roughly 6 fence pickets. So it's pretty economical to build. But I've got these templates that are full-size templates for you. If you have a vinyl cutter, you could use that, or I do have it set up where you could just print it out. I do have a vinyl cutter, but for the purposes of this video, I did just print out the template, cut them all out, taped them together just as you would at home if you didn't have a vinyl cutter. Now, if you don't want to buy the plans, we do provide the template for the skull for free on the website. So if you just go to $5plans.com, that's the number 5, and then $plans.com, click on the woodworking plans and click on the freebie section, and you'll be able to download the template for the skull. And then you could just follow the instructions here in the video for all the dimensions and angles you're going to need. It'll be pretty straightforward, I think. All right, so first things first, let's get our parts cut up, and then so we're going to cut the parts for the chair, build the chair base, and then we'll focus on cutting the parts for our skull. And we'll take a look at the templates and how to use them and all that. All right? So first things first, we'll get the chair base made. So here we have all of our parts cut for the chair base. For the 2x4s, we're going to need 3 pieces that are 22 inches. We're going to need 2 pieces that are 24.5 inches. We're going to need 2 pieces that are 27.5 inches. We're going to need 1 piece that's 33 inches. We do need to add a 10-degree bevel to this on the table saw, so we will get that done as well. And then these are 29 3/8 from the long point to the long point. So usually what I do is I'll actually just go ahead and cut these 29 3/8 and then come back and add this 15-degree bevel, or miter, I guess I should say. And then for the seat of our chair, we need 5 pieces of fence picket that is 22 inches long. Okay, so I'll go ahead and get all this sanded up, and then we'll take a look at assembly. Our chair base is pretty straightforward. We've got our 22-inch board here, and then our 24.5-inch boards there, 22-inch board across the back. 2 3.5-inch screws at each location. Then what we're going to do is take our fence picket material and go side to side, and we're going to staple it in place with our narrow crown stapler using 1 1/4 staples, and then we'll come back in with our 1 5/8 screws and screw it all down. The only catch is on the first one here, what we're going to do is we're going to pull it ahead. I just do one thickness of the fence picket, so we're going to let it overhang 5/8 of an inch, And then we'll put the back one on, and then we'll kind of evenly space all the ones in the middle. Okay? So I'll go ahead and get that done and show you what that looks like. So there's our finished base. I came out ahead 5/8 of an inch. I just used my little spacer here. Make sure that was flush on both sides there. You see, we're just flush on both sides. So I put my first one in, put my back one in, and then I spaced these out evenly. Popped a couple staples in there just to hold it so I could use my piloting bit. This is a DeWalt bit. I always bust off the very tip of it. It's very fine point, but these work really good. Pre-drilled and countersunk all my screws. So now we have to go and attach our legs to this. And this is pretty straightforward as far as attaching the legs go. I've got some key measurements coming up for you. A little bit of layout work to do before we get to attaching our legs, and I'll show you how that all works. Okay, so now we'll take a look at installing our legs onto our seat base. These pieces that are 27.5 inches long, I measured from the bottom up to 18 inches and drew us a line. And on these, I made this little template. And I would recommend doing it. You could use a piece of 2x4 scrap. In my case, I'm just using a piece of fence picket scrap. But the distance from the long end to long end is 11 5/8. We're doing a 15-degree miter and a 25-degree miter. You can see I put 25 and 15 on both sides. Now I went ahead and marked both of my legs here on both sides, because I don't know what will become the right and what will become the left. But that will give us our placement for our seat base, and I'll show you exactly how to use those lines and get everything lined up exactly the way it's supposed to be. Alright, so we've got our two legs on one side, and we're going to flip it over, I think, and put the legs on the other side. But let's talk about what we did here. So we came up from the bottom on our front leg, which is 27.5 inches overall. Came up from the bottom 14.5, and then we just have little random pieces of wood with different angles if I need to transfer those angles. So that's 10 degrees, okay? So I just line that up, right, and just mark it 10 degrees. So that's connection point number one. Up top then, we want the edge of the 2x4 to be right at that corner. So you can see there, it's right at the corner there. And then we want it to be, that will allow us to position that leg pretty accurately. Then on the back side here, we used my little template that I made. We drew that line, and that gets us the bottom. But for our second connecting point, I always use my little Craig multi-mark here. I set it 1 3/4 inches, so we want to find the center of this. And so that goes right on the face of this 2x4. And that will get you lined up pretty darn close to what we need. All right, it doesn't have to be super precise. So now just repeat that whole process on the other side. So there is our main chair base. Now, what I did do is come in here, I put one 3.5 inch screw that went into that horizontal piece there, and then two more 2.5 inch from the outside. Okay, so this will all be squared up real nice when we attach our arms. Now the arms, we're going to be using 2x6s, so I will go ahead and get those cut to length, get the arms attached, and that will kind of make everything a lot more solid. All right, I'll see if I can make sense of this for you. What I did is I measured up from the bottom of my leg up to 21 5/8. Then you can see I just took this little scrap piece of picket. I cut a 25-degree angle on it, and I lined this up with the front of my leg and that point that I've lined up, and I mark it. Okay, that 25-degree angle, and then I did the same thing to this side. Okay, And then that's where our horizontal piece is going to come into play, but it's going to be at that angle. So I'll go ahead and get that attached. The 22-inch piece goes in between here. So that's how that 22-inch 2x4 goes in there, kind of at a slant. So you can see here, we're right on that line, and then we want to kind of even it out on both sides. And the same thing over here, you can see right on that line, and then it's about like a 1/4 inch in or so, and then 2 3.5-inch screws from the outside. Okay, so that basically concludes the chair itself. The only thing left to do is to put the skull background on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and sand off all my screw heads. I'm going to sand off all my pencil marks, and then the base of our chair is basically complete. Except we do have our 33-inch piece that we got to put on top. I forgot about that. So we'll do that quick, and then our chair will be complete. There we go, that's looking better. So we have our whole chair base now complete. We've got our 33-inch board with our 10-degree miter there. And the idea is that this, see how that, with this board right here, how that it's kind of like one continuous angle. It's really, really close, within a degree or two. That's exactly what we want to mount our skull head to. Okay, so now all we have to do is make our skull head pieces, and we'll put it together. All right, so I've got all my templates here, and I've traced all my patterns onto my boards. So now I'm just going to go and cut all this out and see what we got once we put it all together. So we need 2 of each one. So what I thought was is mark it all out on one, cut it all out, get it all shaped perfectly, and then I will utilize what we just created as the template for the right hand side of the skull. So you can see I've got my first half cut out, and everything lines up shockingly well. So this is what we were looking for right here. Make sure our eye sockets, make sure that is a nice straight line. Now there's a little bit I can take off the top there, nothing too serious, but otherwise everything else lined up so well, and I'm so surprised at that. So I will go ahead and just nip that off, and so it lines up more perfectly, and then I'll use these as a template for the other side, and then we're ready to stick it on the chair. Okay, so we have both halves cut out. Everything looks pretty good. I think the simplest way to make sure it goes on the chair properly is we'll go ahead and tack it together here, and then we'll go ahead and put it on the chair. I just feel like that's going to be our simplest way to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a permanent cleat up top. That will be permanent. But the cleat here that we'll do at the bottom, that will not be permanent. That'll just be temporary. So I will go ahead and get that done. And I think we might even put a cleat. I don't know if we'll put a cleat right down here at the bottom or not. I don't think we will. So we'll put a temporary cleat right there, right along the nose. Permanent cleat up top. And yeah, that should work. So let me go ahead and get that done, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so that's what I'm going to recommend that we do. We just put some painter's tape, because these two pieces are sitting loose. Everything else is tied together up top. So we got our painter's tape on. I think that'll work. We'll go ahead and get this in place here and see how it looks. So there is our finished chair. Now I did go ahead and put 2 more cleats in there to hold them together. Arguably there could be 1 more at the top. I chose to leave it off, but that you can kind of just judge for yourself what you think is necessary to hold all those together. But you can see there, it looks pretty good. So that's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you give it a try and maybe try some different designs for the back as well. Thanks for watching.